Hello there, welcome back to the channel and whatever platform you happen to be watching this on or listening to it on for that matter. This is Nerd World Empire and we are discussing today Jason Goes to Hell. The Final Friday. Oh my god, this film. Right. Okay, so what this is podcast format for my channel. It's unscripted and it's just a conversation about this movie. There are actually several others of these episodes on another channel I used to have, which I'm going to export over to this one if I've not done it already at the point when you see this. But right now, we're going to discuss the 9th installment in a very long running and often kind of all over the place series that is the Friday the 13th movie franchise, principally starring as its main antagonist Jason Voorhees. In this movie in particular, he is portrayed by the absolute legend that is Kane Hodder, the man who, for many fans of the franchise, myself included, is the absolute quintessential portrayal of Jason. This hulking behemoth undead zombie, probably deadite, which we'll get to, that is Jason Voorhees. Of course, in the original movie, it was actually Pamela Voorhees, which is a well-known fact now for those who like horror and even have a passing knowledge of this franchise. But number 9, right? So this series has a reputation somewhat for diminishing returns. It's not undeserved, but also does have a few gems. And here's an actual controversial position amongst the fan base. I actually kind of like this film. And I know, I probably shouldn't. This film was infamously rushed. It had, like many Jason movies, which for some reason a lot of the Friday the 13th films have a difficult and troubled production. This film, no exception, actually has quite a rushed, awkward, difficult production. And the behind the scenes are often messy. Basically, the original studio that owned it, sold it. This studio took over and then, I'm like, well, we need to make a film quick. So they rushed this out just to sort of barf up a movie just so that they could have one. Jason Voorhees is virtually, at least in physicality, almost not even in this movie. He appears at the beginning of the film, where he chases a girl. I should point out the most unbelievable part of this entire movie is not the body hopping or the undead nature of Jason. It is the fact that this girl that he chases in a bathrobe, that bathrobe never once comes loose. I can't even walk down the stairs in a bathrobe without it coming undone. So I do not know what the hell this girl did. She must have stapled it closed or something, because it didn't even come loose, and she was running through the woods. And you're being chased by Jason Voorhees, you ain't stopping to tie that thing up. I'm just saying that's the most unbelievable part of this entire movie. And he's pretty much only in the beginning of this film, and then he catches up with her and it's actually a big trap, and the police are there and they shoot the living hell out of him, blow him to pieces, and then it skips forward to a coroner trying to examine his remains, who then feels overwhelmingly compelled to eat his heart. He does so and then becomes possessed by the spirit of Jason. And that's pretty much how this film will roll from here. You've got a few other interesting characters, certainly. And it's definitely a unique movie. It introduces a lot of new different bits of lore to the Jason mythos. Up until this point, supernatural lore within the Friday the 13th saga has been quite prevalent. You've had telekinetic people, you've had resurrections, all this kind of stuff. Now you've got body hopping, and as I said, you're going to be introduced to the idea that Jason might actually be a deadite as part of the Evil Dead series. Basically, you get a few, as I said, new interesting characters like Duke, who comes into this, who's basically trying to kill Jason, and you know what, that's it. You're also introduced to Jason's sister, and it's a mess. It turns out he can only be, I'm going to spoil the hell out of this, by the way, he can only be reborn alive if he is reborn from a relative. So basically, he needs his sister to give birth to him, and it's a mess. It's messy. No, we're not even discussing how all that goes down. But basically, Jason keeps wearing bodies out. He's trying to get back to Camp Crystal Lake to get to his sister to do this, and he's just killing people on the way. But every now and again, the bodies he's in wear out, and he has to sort of body hop into a new body in order to just keep going. It's as I said, Jason's virtually not in it. You got different actors, probably more actors in this one movie than have played Jason in all the other movies combined, effectively just playing a version of Jason as he tries to make his way back so he can be reborn. And when you think about how kind of dumb Jason is and kind of unmotivated by stuff and sort of unfazed by things are, you think he wouldn't really care that much. It's like, oh, I'm dead. Yeah, I'm already dead. What do I care? He'd be fine with it. It's just Jason. God's sakes, the film is a mess. Now, I do like it personally, but I fully acknowledge the film is a mess. Its story is not well thought out. They did not think out the fact that they were making a Friday the 13th movie, which was not going to star Jason Voorhees. It didn't even star someone pretending to be Jason Voorhees like in Friday the 13th Part 5. It didn't have Jason's mother like in Friday the 13th. Since Part 2, Jason has been the star of this franchise. Doesn't matter who's playing him. Kane Hodder may be the best, arguably, debatably, but he is. But ultimately, it's a Jason-led movie franchise, and to basically not have him in it, they didn't even... what? And then to have this idea of, like, basically he has to be reborn through some kind of supernatural incest is... It was a choice. It was definitely a choice. It was a bad choice, but it was certainly a choice they went with. And it is one of the major things that lets this movie down. There are a lot of things that let this movie down, but to me personally, that is kind of gross, and it's one of them. It doesn't... I kind of see where they were going. The sci-fi horror sort of approach. It's a trope. It's been done before. You know, you need a relative to respawn you back into the world, blood for blood, that kind of stuff. It's fine, but it was just creepy, and the way he actually comes back is also equally creepy. And yeah, well, like I said, we're not going over that, but ultimately the film is a bit of a train wreck. It's a bit of a mess. It's not very well written. Everything seems to be a convoluted, like, stretch of the imagination to get from bit to bit. But ultimately, if you want to just turn your brain off, if you want to just watch, you know, a supernatural entity body hop and just slaughter its way back to its hometown in order to be reborn from its sister, then you know what? This is not a bad movie. And it actually isn't a bad film. It's a mess. It is a mess, but it's not actually a bad film. It just gets a lot of heat, and it is deservedly so. But this is the first movie made outside of the original continuity. Some even go as far as to consider it not part of the main franchise, but it is. I'm sorry, it is. As is Jason X, which that's a film as well, isn't it? Anyway, this one, I personally like it, right? I do, but it does have its detractors, and quite rightfully so. As I said, let's get on to what I said about him being a deadite, because let's explain that if you're not aware of it. It's been sort of thrown about a few times in various different medias, like comic books and things, that the Necronomicon shows up. Now, the Necronomicon is in this movie. It's in the basement, or I think it's in the basement at one scene. The Necronomicon, of course, is the book from the Evil Dead. The one made from human skin, has a face on it. If you have, by the way, the special edition DVD of the original Evil Dead from about 20 years ago, which I have, it's actually made to look like the Book of the Dead. It's even a book. It has pages, which if you look really carefully, the creepy, weird writing is actually perfectly readable. And it's got all like the stuff from the book in it. It's very cool. Rubber case. So cool. Anyway. Basically, the Necronomicon is there, as in the little altar and everything. It's like And the Deadites are demons that possess human bodies, and they become like walking, gross, zombie-possessed demons. That's basically, I suppose, what the Evil Dead are. It implies that Jason is some form of Deadite, because effectively it does explain why he just simply can't die. He just keeps coming back. His body is literally is practically falling apart. He's rotten, he's broken, but he shouldn't be walking, but yet he is. Bullets don't kill him. In this movie, he's been completely blown apart. He's been body hopping. His soul has been body hopping. It's a very strong indicator that he's actually a Deadite. So, you can take with that what you will. You don't have to, because it could be some other explanation. It could just be an Easter egg, but we all know how Easter eggs, once they're there, they can't be undone. It's like, once you decide to put that xenomorph skull on the Predator ship, you've started a new franchise, whether you like it or not. It's the same here. You put the Necronomicon in there, you've started it. Freddy versus Jason, Pinhead versus Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. All these things are now out there. The interconnectivity of these particular movie franchises is interesting. It's a separate story. It's a separate conversation. But they all link into each other. They're technically all interconnected as one big movie franchise now. So, yeah. Is Jason a Deadite? I still leave it up to you. He could be, he might not be, he could be something else entirely. But it could also be that, just because the Necronomicon is there doesn't mean a Deadite is what he is. It could mean he's some other form of demonically possessed or supernaturally charged entity separate to a Deadite. It could be. It's entirely plausible. Whatever he is, he's certainly he's now truly unstoppable. He's a monster. But he's the literal nightmare. Not the Freddy kind of nightmare, but he's a physical manifestation of just pure malevolent evil at this point. But I think that's giving this film a little more credit for depth that it doesn't really have. I think the presence of the Necronomicon was more of just an Easter egg and an afterthought, and someone thinking, wouldn't that be cool if... And it wasn't, I don't think, at least from what I've read and what I know about this movie, it was given any more thought than that. If you know different, let me know in the comment section down below, because I would be interested to know. But it's ultimately not, in my opinion, a well thought out enough movie to actually explore the in-universe implications of such a connection, both in the Evil Dead universe and in the Friday universe. Although it does bring a new perspective on what Freddy might be. If you really connect these universes together, we know that there are different forms of demon, and as Hellraiser is also connected to this universe, Cenobites are not technically demons to some, angels to others. That's their own words. They're not, strictly speaking, a demon in the truest sense. Cenobites started out as human. They're actually probably more like a Deadite, more like Jason. They are a supernaturally charged human that has become something else, twisted and warped and morphed out of its original form, but certainly they were not a demonic creation originally. So they're something else. And it adds a new thought into it. Freddy was human, and he was then approached by demons that offered to make him a dream demon. Again, it's a human spirit becoming something else. Jason isn't a spirit. He's a physical body, but he's clearly possessed by evil on some level. It has a lot of interesting ramifications and connections, and this film doesn't explore them at all. Not just doesn't explore them well, it doesn't explore them. But again, the film was pretty rushed, and it was just, we need a movie. We need another Jason movie out now. In fact, the reason it's called Jason, for that matter, is a little bit of trivia, and not Friday the 13th Part 9, is because they didn't actually own the rights to call it Friday the 13th. They had to call it Jason, which is again why some people consider it out of the universe, so that's why it is potentially a debate as to whether or not the presence of the Necronomicon genuinely affects the actual continuity of the show, of the series rather. Because is it really in canon with the other movies? Again, let me know in the comment section down below where you stand on that. Is it? Or whatever ability you have to comment if you're actually listening to this in podcast format. Again, actually a film I really enjoy. If I was to rank it like I've done with the other movies, I'd actually rank it a 4 out of 6, because I really actually kind of like it. I think it's cheesy. I think it's badly written. I think it's not well executed, but I also find it mindlessly enjoyable, and, for lack of a better way of phrasing this, pleasantly violent. It's not ashamed of being bloody and violent and destructive and kind of weird. And I like that about it. It's like they were just like, yeah. There's no rules on this one, just do it. Yeah. He's gonna jump bodies, someone's gonna eat his heart, he's gonna like smash people up, he's gonna stab them, whatever. Yeah, you want him to be born again out of his sister? Yeah, go for it. Whatever, we don't care. I do appreciate that side of the movie where it just went, we'll do what we want. We've got this. We're gonna run with it. That I appreciate. But it's by no means the strongest entry in the franchise. But that's the end of this. That's my short appraisal. As I said, this isn't really a blow-by-blow breakdown or critique of the film. I'd compel you to watch it yourself and form your own opinion, not necessarily listen to mine. It's merely a little bit of a chit-chat and a conversation about the show, about the film. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. You're fully entitled to your opinion. Again, let me know in the comments. With that said, if you made it all the way to the end of this, I appreciate you watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment down below. Or follow, or whatever, on whatever platform you're watching this on, or listening to it. Sorry, at this point I'm fairly new to the podcasting side of this. That is the end of this. Bye-bye.